international magazines and the New York Times. She holds bachelor's and master's degrees in education from Penn State. Sophie is a member of multiple transgender outreach and support groups, including the Greater Philadelphia Renaissance and Vanity Club. Her blog, A Woman Named Sophie, candidly discusses life as a transgender woman and is frequently updated. And with that, I welcome Sophie.
Thank you very much for having me. Can you all hear me? Are you sure? I don't fight. You don't have to sit all the way back there. But feel free, and it's up to you. I can shout. Anyway, the question before us today. Male and female, right? And never the twain shall meet, all right? Obviously not. I'm living proof of that, as are many, many of people just like me. Everyone you see on this picture is transgender. You might recognize some of them. My name is Sophie Lynn. I am a graduate of Penn State, as Dr. said, and member of many transgender things. I have been out as a woman for 2.5 years, and before that I resurfaced as a woman in 2008. There are people in this room who you may or may not be introduced to who have been doing this a lot longer than me. It's not an easy path. What I'm here to talk about today is what it means to be transgender, what it means to live this way in a society that still sees gender as a binary, as men and women and nothing else. So, I'm here to talk about my own experience. I can't speak and do not pretend to speak for every single trans person on the planet. That would be arrogant presumption. This is my story. They have many commonalities with every other trans person around here in the world, but I can only speak from my own experience. Fortunately, I have brought some friends with me. They will be speaking from their experience. There will be a short presentation. I'm going to go through some frequently asked questions, and then we're going to open the floor to all of you. So, if you have questions, please wait until the end. We will answer all of your questions. And I will be available afterwards if you want to talk to me individually. So, in any case, right, there have been transgender people throughout history, all through recorded time. The Bible even mentions them circumspectly. Wow, you can say the word. As you can see, we have Native Americans. They were known as two-spirits to them, and shamans. They were hunted down and exterminated by General Sherman. We can't have people of power, can we? Back in the 1700s, France, Joan of Arc actually as well was considered to be a female-to-male transgender person because she dared to wear armor and cut her hair like a man. There are transgender people in comic books today. Some of these go back some time, some are recent, but this is what children read, they see it. And of course, popular entertainment, movies, television, that sort of thing. Usually in the past, transgender people have been the villain or the comic relief. In this case, you see a little bit of both. Don't even get me started on Ace Ventura. So, what is the difference? What has changed to make transgender part of the national and international dialogue? It's pretty simple, really. Her. Caitlyn Jenner. Before that, she was Bruce Jenner, 1976 United States Decathlon winner. Holder of the title, greatest athlete in the world. The epitome of manhood. A man's man. In a time of America where we just got through Watergate, we just ended the Vietnam War. There was a huge gas crisis. The morale of the United States was at an absolute low. And here's the Soviet Union having at the Olympics bragging they're going to win it all. And what happens? A person from Sleepy Hollow, New York, who no one had ever heard of, goes and wins the decathlon. Bruce Jenner was so famous, he was on Wheaties boxes. That was a big deal back then. We didn't have internet sort of thing. So when Bruce came out as Caitlyn, First on the interview, all the trans people in the United States, yeah, duh, we all knew that. And now it made ripples. There were ripples, there were jokes on late night TV, but then this hit. Picture. Professionally done. She's kind of in her underwear, but we'll forgive that. That's when it really kicked in. Who are these people? What are they doing? Why would they do this? Why would the greatest athlete in the world want to be a woman? Now, I can't speak for your generation back there. When I came up in the 60s and 70s, we, as men, were taught that we were superior to women. Women are beneath us. What is the worst thing, guys, to this day, that you can call each other? Okay? Let's see. Seriously. To insult a man insulting another man, call that person a woman is the worst possible thing. Why in the world would I want to be a woman? I don't want to talk about that. Gender is not a binary. There are many shades of gray. Not 50. More than 50. Millions. You can have the manliest of men, like that Navy SEAL. The most feminine of femme people. Well, I guess like Barbie. Thanks to the women's movement, there is no real stereotypical woman, thank goodness. But everything in between. We have genderqueer. We have ambiguous. I can't even speak. Ambiguous. All kinds of things. All living, breathing people. Human beings. Just like us. Oh, by the way, that Navy SEAL you see there? 22 years of service. SEAL Team 6. One of the toughest people in the world, right? Kristen Beck. Transitioned 4 years ago. She's now a spokesperson for trans rights, especially for transgender veterans, and all veterans for that matter, and ran for Congress. You know, I don't know, did she win? She was in the primary, I don't know if she won. But she is still tough enough to tear anyone's head off. I've met her multiple times. She's a great person. And she's a woman, she's a human being. Does she take a lot of abuse? Oh yeah, she gets death threats. She gets abuse, but none from her fellow SEALs. They respect her. We're going to define a couple terms. Everyone's heard the term transgender at this point. That means that there's a mismatch between what we feel we are gender-wise and what we're born as. I was born male, XY chromosome. But I knew I wasn't one. I've known since I was a child. We'll go over that a little more later. Imagine waking up in the morning and knowing something is wrong. Every morning of your life. Most people, it's about better than 99%, don't know what that's like. Why? Because they are cisgender. Cis meaning same, I think it's Greek. Word that applies to most people. So in other words, you come out of your mother, it's a girl, hey, you're a girl. I'll give you that most of the people in this room are cisgender. It's a term that's become more popular of late. You hear it a little more, especially since the gender thing. And how we use it in reference. How many trans people are there? Well, in this room, I know of 5. But in the world, according to, you get the estimates between 1 in 1,000 to 5 in 1,000. That's because on a survey, no one admits to it. Especially back in time, no way in hell were they going to admit to it. But according to the Williams Institute at UCLA, puts the number at 3 in 1,000, which sounds about right. It's kind of an average. Which means in the United States, as of 2 days ago, 966,383, and in the world, 21,854,249, approximately, Mr. Spock. Those numbers were correct as of a couple days ago. Approximately. So why do I do this? Is it a thrill? Am I just extremely gay? I mean, obviously I'm a pervert. I did this just to look into the stalls of ladies' rooms, right? I'm obviously mentally unstable. That's what we were considered for many years until about 2-3 years ago when gender dysphoria was taken out of the DSM manual. And according to many people, I'm just confused. I don't know what I am. Well, folks, there's a couple possibilities. And if you can understand any of this, apply for your doctorate right now. My dear friend, the late Dr. Cerise Richards, researched this sort of thing. What this basically says is we are born with a female brain. There are 60 other slides, just like this one in the presentation. I was born with a female brain. There's a difference between male and female brain structure. Men are born with 10% more gray matter. That's accounting also for size. That means they have 2 supercomputers, 2 hemispheres. Women are born with 3 times, that's 1, 2, 3 times as much white matter, which means higher connectivity between the spheres. We have 1 supercomputer. So we can think better. So I was born with a female brain. Studies have shown this. Live and dead studies, they've been peer-reviewed all around the world. But maybe that's not the cause. I mean, after all, as I said, I have an XY chromosome, right? XY means I'm a male, right? Oh, wait a minute. Not all of these. Chromosomes don't mean a blankety blank thing, guys. And also, recent research down in Australia, which is currently being peer-reviewed, showed that there may be a transgender gene that causes this. Now, it could be too much estrogen in the womb, it could be a lot of things, it could be that transgender gene. But the fact is, we're here. Whatever happened, we are here, and there are lots of us. How do we define men and women? Everybody know what these are? Sure. Do we define a man by what's showing? If so, do we define a man who does not wish to fulfill his biological imperative by impregnating women, gay people? Are they truly men? What if a woman cannot give birth? For whatever reason, surgically, just can't. Is she still a woman? Is she defined by this? I say no. Absolutely not. She is not defined, he is not defined by his anatomy. It's up here. And it's not a choice. Do you think I would actually really choose to throw away my marriage, throw away my relationship with my daughter, possibly cause myself to lose my job, maybe even lose my standing within any kind of community, possibly even get beat up or worse, just so I can stand in front of you wearing pantyhose? No. Would I do it just for the thrill of looking over a stall in the restroom? Hell no. Show me one case of that happening. Just one. I've challenged my conservative friends on this. They can't do it because it doesn't happen. Yes, I paid $300,000 to get a look at some old lady in the stall. Please, it's not a choice. I had to do this, as do my friends. We have to do this. Now, there are degrees to what we have. There are some people who are just cross-dressers, and that satisfies their need. They'll go out on the weekend, or they'll just dress at home. There are some people who need just a little more. In fact, my friend Vanessa once told me, it's like a train. You get off at your stop. Some people, 1% of us, take the train all the way. That's 1% out of those 300,000 get the surgery. And there's many of those surgeries done. There is somebody sitting in this room who's had that surgery. Perhaps you'll be good enough to speak to you later. We're all trans, all of us. Doesn't matter where we are. It's a tapestry, gender. Speaking of which, you notice these things have arrows. Gender, ladies and gentlemen, is here. It's in the head, between the ears. Sex is a little lower. Gender is who you are. Sex is who you want to have sex with. Around it is gender expression. I choose the gender expression of a woman. There are women who choose the gender expression of a man. They are called trans men. And I know a few of them, but I don't speak for them. Their experience is different from mine. And every one of them I know is a nice person. Most trans women do choose to look stereotypical female. You know, I know there's some feminists out there who say, well, why should we conform to that stereotype with the long hair and the dresses and the frilly and the this and that? We're just trying to blend in. We really are. If we stand out, what could happen? Oh, I don't know, get fired, it happens. So we try to blend in. Now, I personally am 6'1" without heels. I have aircraft carrier shoulders. I don't blend in, and that's fine. I choose to make it a positive by educating others. Now, I suppose if, you know, today a lot of women are a lot taller than me. Now, maybe someday I will blend in. Hopefully, my generation will be dinosaurs, will disappear, because the people who come up after us will get the help they need, and you will never know that they're trans. They'll get the hormones and the blockers to stop their development into one gender or the other, and into the gender that they really were supposed to be. It's happening, folks. Thank goodness it's happening. But not without casualties. As you can imagine, people hate us. We've got the whole bathroom controversy going on in multiple states right now. People down in Houston, by the way, I can't go to the bathroom. The wonderful people of Houston have determined that not only do gay people get no rights, not only do disabled people get no rights, but that's because trans people are going to look at somebody in the bathroom and look at your little girl. That's what Houston voted. And as you can see, we're obviously signs of Satan. I do this because I need it. Not so. Huckabee over there has gone on stage and said that he wishes he were trans so he could go and look at, you know, teenage girls showering. Candidate for president. What does this do to a person? This unceasing barrage of hate. And why does it happen? Well, for one thing, people like Huckabee, they lost a battle, a big one. People, gay people, can now marry the person they wish to in all 50 states. They lost that one. And they're angry. They need another wedge issue. They need another boogeyman. Something to scare people. Guess who is it? Thank you, Caitlin. They've chosen us. But we've always been it. What does that cause? I'm just going to leave that up there. Can you read that? 41%. 41% of trans people attempt suicide. That's compared to the 1.6% of the normal population. Ladies and gentlemen, I think that number is low. In fact, I know it's low. That number comes from the National Center of Transgender Equality. They put out a survey, but there's a little problem with the survey. They only got answers from living people. What about those people who died, who killed themselves, ended their lives because of the pain? She was my best friend. After my wife. Her name was Lisa. Her wife accepted her completely. Everyone accepted her completely, except on her job. She was a construction worker. She didn't come after them. She had a troubled life. She was a gorgeous woman, an amazing woman. We were going to transition together. September 16th, 2013, she started up her band, took it to a remote part of Baltimore, started up 2 paint compressors in the back of her van, and laid down and died. Why? Because it hurts. It hurts. Being trans is not easy. Imagine, if you will, the angriest you have ever been. Imagine that. Put it in your head right now, how the angriest you've ever been. Imagine that every day. Think about the saddest you've ever been. You've got that every day because you can't be yourself, because you were born wrong. That's why she died. 41% of us have attempted, according to the CPP. I'm one of them. I attempted back in 1990. My method was Southern Comfort and rat poison. Good combination. I vomited it right back up and checked myself into a facility. She'll always be with me. I use her as an example for many things. Now, frequently asked questions. I know some of you have questions. I'm probably not going to talk about them out right here. When did I know? When did you know? Woman in pink. When did you know you were a woman? Female, girl? Don't remember? No. You? Any idea? I was 4. I was 4 years old when I figured out something's wrong. I'm not a guy. I don't like doing guy things. I don't want to go out and, play football. Something's wrong. I want to go and play with the girls on the street. Couldn't do that at my age. We didn't have the internet. I was the only freak like myself. And freak was the term back then. I knew when I was 4 years old, I'd lived my entire life that way. I'll guarantee you ask any trans person, they're going to give you an age around the same time. This is when people begin to get a sense of gender. The brain develops to the point where they can do this. In girls, they've already had their first rush of estrogen to the brain. Boys have had the first rush of testosterone. This is what differentiates brain structure. In my case, I didn't have enough estrogen to really do it. I do have a female brain. So, did I say estrogen? I did say estrogen because it is estrogen. Men produce estrogen too. Women produce testosterone. Have I ever tried not being trans? Yes. In 1983, I decided that in my little town of Spring City, that I was the only person in the world like this. My military dad, if he ever found out, would have killed me. My mother, who knows what she would have done. Friends, peers, forget about it. In my small town high school, I would have been ejected. You didn't even come out as gay back then. They were like trans. So I stopped. Men don't do that, and I was going to be a man. After all, puberty was beginning to hit. So I stopped for 20 years. And for 20 years, I walked around with my fist balled up. Other people walk like this. I walked like this. I was a jerk. I would start fights. I would try to prove my manhood in any way, shape, or form. I went out for sports. I joined a fraternity. All these things to prove my manhood to myself. And at university, I drank a lot to cover the pain, but also to prove that I could drink more than them. I was a man. As you can see, it worked. In 2008, I went out for Halloween dressed as Lois Lane to my wife's Clark Kent. Her idea. And it all came rushing back. The bridges, the dams, anything you want, metaphor you want to use, came storming back. I knew I was in trouble. I wanted to get help. I went to see gender therapist named Dr. Maureen Osborne, one of the greatest minds in this. And we worked together until eventually I figured out who and what I am. I'm a woman. That simple. I broke this news to my wife 4 years ago. She was supportive. At that point, we had a 2-year-old daughter. I didn't want children because I didn't want to inflict this upon anybody, inflict myself. Yeah, I agree with alcoholism. But I had a child. The beautiful daughter's now 8. My wife and I are separated. She will not remain married to a woman, and I just had that. Her mother-in-law, we lived with her mother, threw me out. Because I'm an abomination in the eyes of God. trans people, if you wish to self-identify? How many of you have gotten this question? We all have. I just got it this weekend from an attorney brother. What does it look like down there? I'm going to pick on you again. Hi, what is your name? I'm sorry? Hi, Justina, how are you? So how's it going down at the bottom there? Everything going well? What's it look like? Can you describe it to me? I just met you and I'm asking that question. Isn't that about the rudest thing you could think of? You, sir. How are you doing today? Can you get it up? Can you show me? No. No? Oh, come on. The answer to this is none of your business. You don't discuss your genitals to me, I don't discuss my genitals to you. Why is it that people think that we're some kind of circus act, and we're going to talk about that? Some people will. Because they want to discuss and educate. Some people get the surgery. Most of us don't. It's expensive. Insurance doesn't cover it. Don't ask. All we ask as people, it's simple. Treat us like human beings, for God's sake. We're human. Which brings me to this. Am I taking a huge risk by being transgender? You tell me. These are all this year. In Philadelphia 2 years ago, a trans woman who had to work as a prostitute to make money because she couldn't find another job, went home with the gentleman, I use the term loosely, did her thing, didn't get paid. Her payment was when he found out she was trans, he stabbed her 40-some times, dragged her down into his basement, cut her into about 50 pieces, and dumped it in an empty lot here in Philadelphia. He was found because his girlfriend, who lives with him, figured out that there was something wrong. That person has been caught. The person has yet to see trial. He is going to use the trans panic defense. It is still legal. Any idea what that could be, folks? Any guesses? No? It's a derivative of the gay panic defense from back in time, in which if you find out someone's gay, well, you can beat them, and you can kill them because they are obviously a threat. That guy found out she was trans, and he was so upset and humiliated that he killed her. That's his legal defense. He is yet to go to trial. He was also been charged with mutilating a corpse. 23 trans people have been killed in the United States, predominantly women of color, say about 95% of them, since the beginning of the year. At one point, we're losing people with 1 or 2 a week. Is this dangerous? Right now, in 32 states, I can be fired just for being trans. I can lose everything. I could be denied housing. You will note that Pennsylvania is not among the 18. I can be fired right now. I work at a bookstore. Fortunately, they have kept me. I transitioned to a job. There is somebody in this room who, if she is discovered, will lose her job. Just ask her. We have no legal protections. Is this dangerous? That's a lot of words, which makes it a very poor PowerPoint slide for those of you in this sort of thing. More than 4 times possible to live in poverty. Unemployment twice the general population. 90% we get harassment, mistreatment, discrimination. I have. 22% get harassed by police. 41 attempted suicide, we know that, and we still cannot at this time serve in the U.S. military. Today is Veterans Day, Armistice Day. Kristen Beck, who you saw earlier, cannot serve in the United States Navy because she is trans. There was a trans man who's serving in Afghanistan who got an award for valor. At the same time, they were trying to throw him out for being trans. I can't figure that one out. Folks, it's not a choice. We're human, and this is the way we were made. If you want to say God made us this way, that's fine. If you want to say it's a flying spaghetti monster, that's fine. This is who we are. Why? Maybe it's the brain, maybe it's genetics. We ask one thing, just one. Treat us like any other human being. Is it really that hard? I'm a woman. Treat me as such. I prefer if I had the same rights as a cisgender white male with a lot of money. But women don't have that already. People of color don't have that either. Well, we're going to work on that one. Just give me the same rights as any other human being. I'll be happy. I'll start there. Won't be enough. I'll try. Oh, by the way, those pictures at the beginning, I can see you. The gentleman is Aidan Dowling, transgender male. He's a model and a fitness expert with Defense Fitness. The woman is Linda Lewis, a transgender female. She's a model, cover girl, Hollywood-trained makeup artist, general pain in the butt, and my roommate. Linda, could you say that? Thanks. Ladies and gentlemen, Linda Lewis. Thank you very much. Okay, I'm done prattling on. Those who have communicated with me about answering questions with me, come on up. Bring it. Anything's open. It's an academic setting. You can say anything you want. Come on. Anyone? Bueller? Yes?
What do you think about the little girl Jazz? Like, do you have anything on that about?
I don't know too much about Jazz. I haven't seen too much of her YouTube and that sort of thing. She is one of the generation that has transitioned earlier and therefore can, if she wishes to go stealth. So my opinion is not as an informed one, so I'll just say, you go, girl. So.
I've been following her a lot. The difference between her and us is that she has a very, very supportive family. If we had the same support when we were her age, when we came out to our parents, we met all the taxes. But when I came out to my mom and my sisters and brothers, I was girl, and they literally feed it into you the boy. So you learn by the age of 6 that you better not say that anymore. You have to hide it. So everything from about the age 5 and 6 was scared. Today, Jazz, mom embraced it. Everybody else was Jazz. She's just like us. She's a better opportunity.
She was extremely vocal of her gender identity at a very young age. I think she was like 2 or 4 or something, and her parents got the idea really early. My name's Lilia. I don't think so. And I don't know if you've ever heard of Nicole Maines either.
I was just about to bring her up.
The Maines family live in Maine, and she has an identical brother, identical twin, and she identified as female very young also, and her parents came around and supported that, and then they had trouble in the school where all of a sudden she couldn't use the restroom. So that's their process that they had to go through to get her recognized, because the Maine law said she could use the restroom of her choice, of her gender identity, and they had to go to the Maine Supreme Court to defend that case, or to fight that case, and they won, so they have notoriety now, and now Nicole's 19 years old, going to college, but she's very vocal and very outspoken in support. But again, she just identified very young, got the medical profession is coming along with supporting other kids at an earlier age, so that helps a lot.
just to add to that, Nicole identified as a woman and was in school as a girl for quite some time until the grandfather of one of her classmates got upset and went and complained. She needed a bodyguard at the age of 7 to go to the bathroom, to exist. Her family got death threats and in fact were run out of town by the people who just hated them that much. They moved to a different town, went stealth, completely changed everything. Nicole went back to school quietly until they won their case. Now they go. She's a lecturer. Her father's a lecturer. They just put a book out called Becoming Nicole, which got a very good rating from the New York Times. You've met her. I've met her. You've met her. Next question. Yes.
Two quick points, if you don't mind. One, yesterday on National Public Radio, in the late morning, I don't know if any of the other audience members heard this, there was an hour-long segment about the gender bathroom issue, and focusing on trans men and women and the difficulties for them in gender-segregated bathrooms. It was a very interesting discussion about Philadelphia primarily, but beyond. And a Harvard law professor who actually is writing a book about the history of discrimination with regard to public bathrooms, starting with women and then blacks versus whites, and now, the gender continuum, said that he really prefers, they just did a new law school where he is, and instead of them having bathrooms, designated bathrooms for anyone to use because they're single-person bathrooms, they actually put up signs that say all gender bathroom. He said that was intentional because he feels that any chance you get to educate the world about the fact that it's not a binary, that it is all genders, meaning that whole continuum is a chance to educate. And so they purposely put on each bathroom, even the single stall bathrooms, all gender. And I thought that was interesting. In their stall bathrooms, they have floor-to-ceiling stalls so that there's privacy. They're locked. And therefore, everyone comes out, men and women, as in Europe, and washes their hands together. But while they're doing their thing, they're in a private stall. Just happens to be men and women or people on the whole continuum in between. And I thought that was an interesting discussion. The other thing I just wanted to mention to you is I teach here in the psychological and social science program, but when I was a college student at Temple, one of the first papers I ever did was an interview with Renee Richards, and at that time, transsexualism was the term that was used. I just found the idea of a continuum so interesting back then, and I'm talking a long time ago, because I've been here 40 years, so when I was an undergraduate, it was a really long while ago. At the time, I felt that prenatal genetics, hormones probably was a very, very important piece of explaining transgender. But people back then argued that it was because a mother or father so wanted a child of the opposite gender that what they did is to mix up the child's identity, like almost intentionally. Like, I want my little boy to be a little girl, so I'm going to dress him up in girly things and hold him so much that he'll start to confuse his body with my body. There was all of that kind of after birth, what happened in the first few years. And it's interesting to see your slide about prenatal hormones because I've not followed the field that much, and yet it sounds like you're, as a transgendered person yourself, saying that you're pretty convinced that this was a prenatal phenomenon, and it's not because of what anyone did to you or didn't do to you after birth. Am I right that you're pretty sure that you're, yeah.
You, I appeal to the doctors in front of me. You may or may not have heard of a case, 30 years ago, in which a boy who was born intersex, due to, I think it was an accident of circumcision, lost his genitalia. So they raised him as a girl. And it was the big nature v. nurture. If they raise him as a girl, will he remain a girl? He's dead now. He committed suicide.
Did he? Your question is about the 6th week of natal development.
Yeah.
There's a hormone release for everybody's female brain, whole body's female when you first conceive.
That's right. There has to be certain.
About 6 weeks in, there's a hormone release for a male. It would be a testosterone release that would affect the brain.
Mm-hmm.
But the theory is that there was not enough, or it didn't happen for the male, so that the brain was considered female.
I saw a hand over here.
Yeah, why do you think trans women of color are experiencing so much violence and abuse?
That's a very good question. I was born white. I did not experience the African American experience. I have many friends of color. I do not pretend to know how they were brought up. From what I have read, not what I've experienced, theirs is a more macho culture, and to be a woman in that culture, please correct me if I'm wrong, to be a woman in that culture is really, forget about it. One of the most recent murders was an African American woman who was killed because she was kidding around with a friend of hers, and he didn't want to lose face in front of his friends, so I killed her. So, why is a very good question. Could it be that most of these people were prostitutes? Well, yes, they were, because they couldn't find other jobs. They need to eat. Many trans people are prostitutes, and most of them are women of color. That puts them in dangerous situations. Maybe that has something to do with it. I'm sure there are studies going on. I wish I had a better answer for you. Over here.
Okay, so I have a question. When I was a little kid, I was very much into climbing trees and all that kind of stuff. And at that time,
Mm-hmm.
people would just be into tomboys. So,
Mhm.
and looking to address what's the difference when you're dealing with a kid that's a preschooler that seems to have interest in their head. They seem to identify more with a woman and female, with toy things, with boy toys, with superheroes, and all that kind of stuff. What's the difference with that versus someone that is tomboy, or is tomboy not even a term that's used?
Tomboy is a term that's used. That's a very good question. Thank you for asking it. The difference can be a subtle one, and that's the real danger of the child psychology area, determining, is that child really trans? I can say that from my point of view, and from the point of view of people I know, we knew. This was not even a question. My wife was a tomboy, still is. She never ever wanted to be anything but a woman. It's in here. We know. Now, some people say, well, the child's just 4 years old. They don't even know how to tie their own shoes. Here we are.
The test is persistence, consistence, and insistence. When you were a tomboy, did you say, I'm a boy? You say that for years. I'm a boy. I'm not a girl. I'm a boy. And never varied, and never went out anything to do with being a girl, right? That would be a trans man or a trans woman. It's not just a week or a month or a year. It's like forever. You always feel that way. You always insist that's what you are, right? So these kids, the mothers for the 2-year-old Jazz or 3-year-old Jazz, they didn't just say, okay, you can be a girl. No, she had to fight her parents for years until it came to a point where the parents had to break down and give in to the child, right? Because the child was insistent, consistent, and persistent in her identity, right? So this is not a one-time thing. Isn't this, oh, I think I'll go use the ladies' room today, and you go use the ladies' room. No, you're like this for years, forever. You've always been this way.
So, okay, so if you're dealing with a toddler that seems to have all these interests that are male, then as the parent, when you were little, would you have preferred them to have these different pronouns with you? Like, at what point do you start doing different things as a parent?
I would humor the child. I mean, I'd love them unconditionally. I have 2 children. Father, 2 children. I would love them unconditionally. I would humor them. I wouldn't take them seriously at first. Okay, attribute to their imagination. Just let them go, right? And they'll figure themselves out. They'll tell you. Right? You don't have to tell them what they are. They'll tell you. Just follow their lead. And if it happens forever, well then maybe they're changed. Take them to the doctor. Take them to a gender therapist.
That's what I was going to say.
You can't decide what they are.
I know, I didn't mean it like that.
The kids afraid of damaging one way or the other. I just humor them until it got to a point where you have to take them to a gender therapist or they grow out of it. But a lot of kids have this, but they'll grow out of it, and that's great. You know, very few of us don't. That's when you see it. That's when you get help.
I've read several cases in which a 4-year-old will tell, or a 5-year-old will say, you know, when is my penis going to fall off? If I can't dress in this dress, I will kill myself. I will run out into traffic. A 5-year-old saying that, that's when you get help. That's when you see a gender therapist.
And that's not the same thing as a female scientist, right? You know, girl or boy children that identify as girl or boy children can do that whole continuum of activities without necessarily, there's no way of, I don't think that assumption can be made until the child self-identifies. As a child development person, I would tell you that that's what religion suggests. Lots of girls that identify as girls like to do things that we see as being boy activities. They don't see them as being boy activities, they just like them. But they really want to be a girl doing those things. That's quite different than what your experience was.
Next question. Yes.
I just wondered if you had any interaction with Matt Brock, who was transitioned, I think from an email. He's had, I think he didn't have surgery, but he was an accomplished, like a Marine, kind of off of what you're saying with the Congresswoman, powerlifter, Marine, and a man-based man, but now he made that transition and he's lost his supplement company, endorsement. It's kind of like the door's been closed on him, but he was kind of poster boy for that. I was just wondering if you had any.
I have never met this person. I have followed their story, and it's a good cautionary tale. I mean, he was the manly Marine. He is no longer. And for that, he's being punished. His story's ongoing. So all of ours. Are we getting close to class time? I don't know what time it is. Yes.
Being that this is such an important topic today, especially this culture, what would be something that you wish you knew as a young person or as a child, or that you would want young children and young people dealing with this to know?
You're not alone. You are not alone. Isolation is just, when I grew up, we didn't have the internet. Now we do. You are not alone. You can get through this. It's natural human behavior. You are not a freak. You are not alone. I stand up here with two of my sisters. Another of my sisters is sitting down, and the one sitting over here. I am not alone. And that, by the way, is the only reason I'm still standing here. Knowing that I've got support. Knowing that there are people out there who love me. Knowing that I have a purpose. Otherwise, after Lisa went, I would have gone too. That's what I would say.
Do you think that the reality show that Caitlyn Jenner was part of this season, as well as another reality show about two families in which the father was a trans woman transitioning, by people being exposed to that who haven't been exposed to persons who are transgender, that will, you know, like 10 years from now will say, God, was there ever a time where it wasn't just kind of, you know, I really feel that much like with gay and lesbian marriages, that like, you know, we'll just get to a point where people will forget that there was a time where, I would hope we would get to a point where the sheer fact that we are meeting people among us and in our neighborhoods and in our jobs will make us realize that as people are coming out, that these are our neighbors and our colleagues and our friends. And
I'll counter with this. There are African Americans in this room. 50 years ago, they would not be. Why wouldn't they be? Why can't we be? Anything that opens up the dialogue. Now, is Caitlyn Jenner a spokesperson for us? No, she gets everything wrong, it seems sometimes. She's still learning.
What's
But
good about her show is that she has a trans woman on her show. With her
They still get
they really do.
She's been so isolated.
Yeah.
Who's the English professor that she?
Jenny Boylan,
Boylan.
that's
Jenny
Jennifer
Boylan.
Finney Boylan, author of She's Not There. Jennifer?
She writes for the New York Times.
New York Times.
She writes for the New York Times?
Yes.
Yes.
Another person who appears is Carolyn Causey, who's a trans activist and former television star. I've never seen the show. I don't have time for like
The entertainer friend, did she maybe be a development romantic interest
Oh,
with that?
Carmen Carrera.
Oh, wasn't that Ground Castle? No, wait, no, that's,
Yeah.
Candace King.
Candace King.
That's who I was trying to.
Candace King.
And
Who's
then
also
just-
been on TV, movies.
Wrong file.
Yeah, Candace King.
Any other questions before everyone has to run away?
I want to ask a question. I just wanted to say, I want to say thank you for being here. Thank you for having the courage to be the most authentic you that you can be. And just thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Penn State, for having me here today. If you have questions, I'll be available afterwards. I can't speak for my friends, but I've got nothing to do, so I'm here to answer your
So is
questions.
your degree in education from
Degree-
University Park?
Yes, Penn State education, secondary education, English and history, minor creative writing, master's degree instructional design, Penn State Great Valley. And I work there.
She's smart.
Thank you again for asking.